Hey, y'all. Welcome to season 2 of the Reckless Optimist podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. This is a show about hope, strength, perseverance, and resilience. Let's get into it. Hey, everyone. Today on the podcast, we have Hilary. Hilary and I met through mutual friends. She is a super special person. I felt like I knew her my whole life after we did this interview. She is just extremely calm and insightful and intelligent. She has a beautiful, transformative story where she completely changed her life around. She has 18 years of sobriety. She is definitely someone I look up to very much. She has her own podcast called The Right Room with Hilary Phelps. I know you guys are going to love this episode. Let's get into it. Hey, everyone. Help me welcome Hilary to the podcast.
Hi, Megan. Thank you.
I'm so excited that you're here. I have to tell the listeners how me and you connected because we have a mutual friend, Nisha, who was actually my first interview of season 1.
She's amazing. We were talking a little bit before we even hit record about how much we adore her as a human, as a woman in long-term recovery. And just you guys have known each other for a while.
Yeah, we met when we were 17 party girls. I think we met dancing on a table somewhere. But yeah, she is like what I call a modern day prophet. She has always been like a spiritual guide for me. She is just, if you know her, you love her. We actually just recorded an episode together with Brad over at Sober Motivation on Wednesday. So it's fun. We're working together in the sobriety world as well.
Oh, I can't wait to listen to that. I really adore Brad and love the work that he's been doing in the sober space and with Sober Motivation. Just to piggyback on that quickly, Nisha is also one of my spiritual guides. She gave me the best. I was telling her I was having trouble sleeping and she gave me a couple and I was like, I love this. And then I've actually shared it with others who have said that. And I was like, this works so great. Thank you. So she's so gifted.
She's also, by the way, we're making this Nisha's episode. She also is very, very fit, extremely fit. So we were just at our college reunion like a month ago and we were all like obsessing over her muscles. Like, she has the most gorgeous muscles I've ever seen.
Yes, I'm amazed by her discipline to get up in the mornings and her commitment to it. She looks great.
How did you guys connect?
A woman, Dara, connected us, and I was connected to Dara through another friend from Baltimore. She's like, hey, there's this really wonderful woman. I just think you guys would get along. And she connected me, and then Dara connected me with Nisha, and then here I am with you. And I love this like chain, and you and I were talking about this a little bit as we get older, like this chain introduction to really incredible women. So that's how I met Nisha probably a year ago. Yeah, and she was on my podcast, and I love talking to her.
Yeah, that's awesome. I listened to that episode. It was a great episode.
Oh, thank you.
So we are going to start our episode out with a quote like we do each time. And the quote for your episode is by Carlos Castaneda. He is a Peruvian author whose work specializes in spirituality, consciousness, and understanding the human mind. So the quote goes, we either make ourselves miserable or we make ourselves strong. The amount of work is the same. What does that mean to you?
I love this. And two things came up. One is like everything is a choice. Right. And that's the decision. There's always a pause and then the choice. And so also what came through really, really loudly is my partner and I talk about this a lot of times. Like we get to choose our hard also. Right. And so when it comes to drinking, like I could choose my hard of just pretending like it wasn't there, ignoring it, sticking with the shame and continuing to drink. Or I can choose my hard by getting up every day and doing the work that I need to stay sober one day at a time. And so I love this idea of, in theory, everything is hard, right? Even the good things can feel hard because it's a ritual or it's discipline or staying stuck, but we get to choose our hard.
I love that. And you explained that so perfectly. Yeah, I think that's a really good answer. When I read this quote, a few things came up. One is that the amount of work it took me to be an alcoholic was a tremendous amount of work. You know, all of the lies and the hiding and the mental capacity it takes to be in active addiction is exhausting. Right. So all of that work just to be miserable. But, you're in this like whole cycle. It's really hard to break out of that. But yeah, that was one thing that came up. The amount of work I put in now into being a healthy person that exercises and eats right and, works on myself continuously working on myself. And then the other thing that came up was, just kind of that filter of gratitude that we need to put on our lives. And instead of a victimhood filter, really looking through the eyes of like, I'm so thankful for every single thing that I have, can really change the trajectory of your life.
Yes. And you've heard of Mind Magic by James Doty. And in it is where I read about this reticular activating system, right? It talks about gratitude too. And it's like the more you look for the great things in your life and the gratitude, the more the universe will present those things to you because our brain's always looking to stay safe. And so I love that like that biological explanation of it, right? Because it's like, that's so
Yeah.
true. It's like we can choose to look for the happy things or we can choose to look at the things we don't have. And then I'm curious, how do you find these quotes?
So a lot of them are from books that I've read, but this one I've had saved in my phone for like years, and I use it sometimes as like a caption. But yeah, usually I find them from books.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what's speaking to you that day or yeah. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I live my life through quotes and metaphors.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I use them so much on my show. They give me a lot of strength and courage.
Do you have a favorite or is it changing? Like it's seasonal depending on kind of where you are?
I have a few. So one of mine, it's very cliche and it's on my watch, is see it, believe it, achieve it. And that's what I'm a cheer coach and I tell my girls that. And then my other one is at first it feels like pain and then it feels like freedom. And that really pertains to, because I'm an athlete, my athletic background.
I love that.
So I love quotes. Well, we are so excited to hear your story. So wherever you feel comfortable, just take us back.
One of the most powerful things is like I grew up in I say normal, right? Like no big T trauma. My family was great. They were very supportive. I was the fastest swimmer in the country. I was also an athlete. At age 11 and 12, I was super dedicated. I loved it. I had straight A's. And so I had all these external things that would say, I'm happy. I'm fine. I have friends. Everything is going well. And then at 14, I think mental health wasn't as talked about as it is now. It wasn't a subject that people, had discussions. It wasn't open. And so I think I experienced a touch of depression and I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to manage it. My swimming started slipping, my grades started slipping. And when I found alcohol, it was the answer that I needed to kind of, self-medicating to quiet those voices that I wasn't good enough. And I, drank for 15 years. And what that looked like for me is I was a blackout drinker and it was mostly wine. As I got older, I didn't like the taste of beer, but I wouldn't say no to anything. And, but I still had a college scholarship. I was a Division I collegiate athlete, swimmer. I had school records. So again, like I was able to kind of hide it really, really well because of all these external things. But on the inside, I felt like I was burning alive. And my family, also I think it's the time, it's kind of this idea of if you look good on the outside and things look okay, then we don't talk about our problems. We just put on a smile, put on the sunglasses when you're crying and just keep going. And so that was kind of my coping mechanism that I had learned. And to be fair, that was the coping mechanism that they had learned. And so it was how it was. It is how it is. And so drinking became something that I just leaned on. And it was the only tool in my toolkit. And, I believe that addiction is a brain disease. I think it's genetic. And so for me, it was this collision of a perfect storm of I was looking for something to quiet those voices and I became addicted really quickly. And so I had all of the things, fell down escalators, woke up in places I didn't know, woke up with bruises and scratches and not remembering the night before. And, the quote that you showed was perfect because it's like I had two choices every single morning was to look at what was happening and do something about it or just bury the shame with more booze. And for 15 years, I chose to bury the shame with more booze because shame felt really hard and really painful. I found myself in unhealthy relationships because I thought, I'm like, well, if I just have somebody next to me who loves me or who says that they love me, then I'm okay too. But that external validation and that continued. They were either probably relied heavily on substances, came from a family with alcoholic use, and it was really toxic. And so it took me a couple of years to get sober, but I started seeing a therapist. And it's so funny because I looked her up the other day and I was like, I felt called to reach out to her. I haven't yet, but she really helped me. And she took me to my first 12-step meeting. And I was like, I don't know, when are they? Do I have to go? And she's like, well, they're every day. It was the courage that I needed to step into the room for the first time. And what I saw were people sharing so openly and honestly and vulnerably and real about things that I was like, you don't talk about those things in public and you definitely don't share them in a room full of people, let alone your closest friends. And I wasn't ready. And so I did this little dance for a while where I would go into 12 steps and then I'm like, this is too much, and then I would leave and I would start drinking again. And you hear these analogies of like, the disease is just waiting for you. It doesn't go away. It doesn't get weaker if you don't feed it the drink. It gets stronger. It's just waiting for you. And I found that to be true. The hangover started to get worse, and I became this version of myself that I didn't like. I was angry. I was emotional. I was agitated all the time. I wasn't sleeping. I never felt rested. I came from this athletic background and I never felt good in my body and my mind and my spirit and my soul. Like nothing really felt good. Um, at 29, I was in a relationship where he's like, if you don't get help, I'm going to tell your family how bad this really is. And my family, saw it and they were kind of like, we don't want to be around you when you're drinking. But something about that shame and something about kind of that being what felt like exposed was really hard. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll just try this inpatient. I'll go to inpatient for a little while and see if that works. I'm sorry, outpatient. And if that doesn't work, because inpatient, what I told myself is like, those are for real, people with real problems. And I still wanted to hide it, right? Like I still wanted to hide my recovery, my addiction. So I went to outpatient and it was for me the best thing I did because I started to understand that I wasn't alone. Like when I was going into 12-step meetings, I wasn't ready to hear it. But when I went into outpatient and we had groups, small groups of women, and I heard someone say, well, I sneak drinks. I was like, I sneak drinks. And I thought I was the only one, right? Which is wild now because, I think that's fairly common, with addicts and alcoholics. I was like, wow, you too, me too. And I could look at someone else and I just didn't feel alone anymore. And that was kind of, my first step into recovery. And we'd go in on Fridays and on Mondays we'd come back and they'd say, how many meetings did you guys go to? And I didn't want to be the only person, right? That like straight A student like that discipline came kind of rushing back in. I didn't want to be the only one. So I was like, oh, I went to 2 meetings this weekend but at those meetings, I was looking for the cute boys in the back to distract me, right? Because I still didn't want to fully look at me. And it took a really long time to realize that, I was only as sick as my secrets. And until I could start looking at the things that I was trying to bury, with the booze and with the drugs, I couldn't fully start to heal and fully start to get sober. And that first year I did everything. I did everything that I, was suggested. I went to a lot of meetings. I reached out. I did a lot of community, a lot of fellowship, hung out with people that were also not drinking because it was really hard for me to be around alcohol. And the biggest thing, I've learned over the last 18 years is that it's not linear. Like I thought once I put down the alcohol and I stopped drinking, then my life would be perfect. Because then, like now I'll be sleeping again. And I did. I felt great the first couple of days it felt physically great. At 5 years, though, I was diagnosed with severe depression. And I feel like that was everything that I'd stuffed down drinking for 15 years came to the surface. And I would never have, I believe, have been able to look at that if I hadn't gotten sober. At 10 years, my son was born. It was the greatest gift in the world. And at 10 days old, I took him to a meeting and I picked up my 10-year chip. This little ball, like this little guy is smush. And at 15 years, I got divorced. I moved, I launched a business so I could financially support my son and then my dad died at the end of that. Still gets me. At the end of that year, at 15 years sober was the first time I was like, I'm going to drink. Like, I can't handle anymore. I'm done, and you think of all the slogans and all the sayings, you never give more than you can handle and just keep going one day at a time. And I was like, you know what? F that, F all of this, F you, no, I'm done. And I'm grateful that for 15 years I had different tools. And I picked up the phone, I went to a meeting, and then, I joke and I said this, like I bought a pack of cigarettes because ice cream wasn't going to cut it, and I knew I didn't want to drink because I knew it wasn't going to bring my dad back. And I got, one day at a time, kept putting one foot in front of the other, but I didn't drink. And so that was also the same year I started sharing my story openly because for 15 years, my college roommates knew because they had staged an intervention my senior year. My family knew because they saw me drinking and then all of a sudden I wasn't. And so people close to me knew, but other people in my community just didn't know because, as an athlete, I did an Ironman. I lived in an ashram. Like I was really into health and wellness. And so when I decided to share my story publicly, what I realized at 15 years is that I still felt a little bit of shame around my recovery, around my drinking. But I also realized that if I was still feeling shame around at 15 years, what was I telling the woman who was trying to get sober or had 1 day or 1 week or 1 month? Because I think she's the bravest woman in the world. And so what was that, what was I silently telling her by staying quiet? And so I decided to start sharing openly in the hopes, of helping one woman. If one woman could say, because I'm sure you've heard these incredible stories, right? Like I have a friend that was, got shot at because he was using, and another friend had a needle in his arm when his parents found like all of these stories that are so like, oh my gosh, how are you alive? And I was like, well, my story's not that. So does it really matter? And what I realized is all stories matter because I think the more people that share, the more people that are looking for help can hear something in someone's story and say, wow, me too, right? That same moment that I had in recovery. Okay, me too. I'm not alone. She did it. He did it. They did it. Okay, I can do it too.
Absolutely. Wow.
Uh,
You got me a little choked up there about your dad. I lost my father 10 years ago this year. And it's funny. Grief is funny. Like you think it's linear and that you'll be okay. And then like 10 years later, you're like crying in the grocery store thinking of a memory of them. Like it's not, it hits you back. Time doesn't always heal.
yeah. Have you heard the grief box theory? I don't even know what
Explain
it's
it.
called. But it's this idea of when grief happens, a box is small. And so what I'm doing, it's like think of a jewelry box, right? And so the ball inside the box, there's not a lot of space for it to go. So every time it touches a wall, it's really raw. It's really strong. It's really powerful, right? The grief doesn't get smaller or go away, but the box or time, like over time, the box grows. And so when the
Mhm.
ball moves, it doesn't feel as sharp or as painful or as sharp, as it did the beginning, but it's still there. And so sometimes the
Mhm.
waves come through as just a memory of like remembrance of gratitude, kind of like, wow. And sometimes it's still really sharp, like this moment, in the grocery store that you describe, and we don't know when it's going to happen. And there's more time between them, but it doesn't lessen it. It's still,
Yeah.
and grief is one of those funny things. It's not, I say, quote, just sadness. It is the gratitude. It is the joy. It is the sadness. It's the pain. It's it's a lot.
Grief is love with nowhere to go, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
But I wanted to ask you some follow-up questions, and since we are talking about your father, did you have a complicated relationship with your father, or did you have a really good relationship with him?
Probably both. Like looking back, my dad grew up without a dad. My dad's dad passed when he was 8, and my dad's dad had a relationship with alcohol like I did. From what I heard, I never met him, but my dad found him in a drunken state. At one point, thought he was dead. He was trying to wake him up, and his dad's like, "Get me another shot," of bourbon, or I don't remember what it was. Um, and so my dad's like, "Oh my gosh." And so when he died, when my dad was 8, he kinda raised himself, and so my dad didn't have anybody to teach him how to be a dad. And so when I look back on that, I know my dad did the best he could. Um he was a tough in a loving way. I mean, he was a police officer, and so he was very rules driven and strict, but he was also very sweet in the same way. And so my dad was always very supportive of everything. And there was a period of time when we didn't talk. So,
Mm.
but when my dad passed, we were in a really good place. I saw him almost every week. We'd made the amends. I was also not the easiest person because he would talk about my drinking, and I was like, "You don't know, you don't understand," all those things. So I'd say it's a little bit of both. But
Yeah.
my son was able to know my dad and spend time with him before he passed. I know he'd be really proud now of this work and of speaking openly, and I know he's
Absolutely.
smiling down.
Yeah. When you talked about your dad's relationship with his dad, research shows or, life experience shows if you are raised by an alcoholic or you're married to an alcoholic, you're abandoned in a certain way. And like learning
Mm.
to love other people can be very challenging. But it sounds like maybe your dad broke generational trauma a little bit. I wanted to ask you a few other questions about your upbringing. And it's funny because I just met you, but we have so much in common. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I was also a D1 athlete, and I feel like I really struggled with perfectionism. And while there's some, good things to that, the discipline of it all, there's also the negative side of that. I want to kind of hear your experience of growing up as an athlete. And like specifically for me, being a college athlete was extremely hard. High school athlete was easy. I was like a big fish in a little pond. But in college, I was a little fish in a big pond, and it was like an ego check. And I fell to the pressure of being a college athlete. What kind of experience did you have with that?
I think the discipline that made me successful as an athlete is also what made me successful as a drinker, right? It was like, I can do anything, I'll figure it out, like just keep going, push harder, try better. Maybe it's different this time, right? And so my experience I went to a college where, I had school records. I was one of the fastest when I was a freshman and sophomore, and I kind of had a really crappy attitude because I was like, well, I'm the fastest. It's like you're drinking. I'm like, what are you gonna do? Like, I'm the fastest swimmer. Are you gonna kick me? So I kind of had a really poor outlook on my ego was completely overinflated. Um, and that's just a terrible thing, right? Like I was never like, okay, let me hear you out. You're right. You're paying for my college education. Like this is a scholarship. I was just like, what are you going to do? Are you going to kick me off the team? And so I had a really bad attitude.
Yeah. I totally track with what you're saying, though, about the discipline. Like that discipline that I had then was used for the alcohol disorder, you know?
And yes, and joke about it now. But I also have this mentality of I'll figure it out and I'll do it on my own. And, even 18 years sober and a woman in my mid 40s, that's something I'm still working on, like allowing, because I'm like, I want help. I want, I don't want to do it by myself anymore. But when that help comes in, there's this like a little protective barrier that goes up. That's like, nope, I've already done it myself. I want help, but receiving it feels really hard. And so that's kind of where I am now and working on that, like being able to ask for help and receive it, because I've always been this go-getter, do it myself. I don't need anybody, mentality. And my partner laughs and calls it my cape. And so when I'm like, no, I got it. And he's like, he joked, he's like, okay, are you wearing your cape today? Okay, got it. Okay, Wonder Woman, and he makes it like a kind joke, not like a putting down joke or like making fun of me joke. He's like, okay, I see you, Wonder Woman. You got this today. Okay, if you change your mind, I can carry your cape for you. And I'm like, okay, ha ha ha. And it's a really beautiful mirror to show me kind of in that moment. I'm kind of digging my heels in a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, just because I'm genuinely curious, do you still swim? Do you still compete as a master's athlete?
No, so, and I laugh because I just got in the pool recently with a friend of mine. But I was an Ironman. I did an Ironman in 2010. And so this is a very this is the way I did things. I hadn't swam in 10 years. I'd never run more than 5 miles and I didn't even own a bike. And I signed up for an Ironman. I'm like, that sounds fun. And I trained in 8 months for it. And so then I got back in the pool and then I was swimming and it came back really quickly and it felt really good. And then I didn't swim again until I was pregnant with my son and I swam like once. And then recently, a friend, she's in her 40s, just learned to swim for the first time. And so she's like, will you swim with me? Because she was new to the sport. And I was like, she goes, I never thought that it might be a complicated thing for you. And I was like, no, I'll do it. And what I'll tell you is I was a distance swimmer. I swam the mile. I went and I swam like a 500, 800. I mean, it wasn't compared to what it was, but it was fun. And I felt, and I was like, oh, it's been so long. Like, okay, I feel a little, I'm like, okay, this is okay. Like, it kind of gave me a little bit of a permission slip it doesn't have to be what it was. It can be what it is. And it can be fun and it can be 30 minutes. It could be 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be hours and hours. And so I'm exploring what that looks like, but I don't do masters or compete because I said I wanted to swim the Bay Bridge. There used to be this race that was like a 4-mile Bay Bridge swim. And I was like, I want to do it. I'm like, but the only way I would do it is if I win it. And I know the woman that wins it and she wins it every year. And I would have to work really hard and I don't know if that's where I want to put my attention right now.
Oh my gosh. I think the same way as you. It's so funny. It's hilarious. Actually, we're on the same vibrational frequency. I just did my first Ironman. I'm still wearing my bracelet.
Which one did you do?
Ironman Chattanooga, 140.6. And so I'm a runner, right? That's my thing. I was a D1 runner, not a swimmer, terrible biker, but we did it, girl. We did it.
Terrible biker too.
It's awful. The swimming, though, like the open water swimming, it's really a mind game. You have to just keep your mind calm because the whole time people are hitting you, the water's dark. But yeah, what did you think of the Ironman? I'm very curious what your experience was because you probably killed your swim.
And so everyone's like, you're so lucky because you're a swimmer and you got to. And I was third out of the water for women. It was awesome. Like I loved it. It felt really good. It was really intimidating because it's when they did mass starts. So they just pulled a cannon and everybody goes. And so there was so I did have a little bit of overwhelm, felt a little bit of anxiety then, even as like a strong swimmer, but came out of the water. But then running and biking are all leg heavy. Like they're really focused. And as a swimmer, I don't have any of that because I wasn't a runner or a biker or a cyclist. And so my really strong showing was the beginning, and it was really short compared to the other, 138 miles or whatever. But it was great. I loved it. It was a great experience. I'm glad I did it. I don't know. I don't know if I'll do it again. Not
Yeah,
anytime soon.
I enjoyed hearing your perspective on it because like I explained, kind of tanked in college. And now at age 40, I've gone through a very transformative weight loss through changing the way I eat. I went vegan and lost a lot of weight and it feels like I've taken a weight vest off of my body. And so now I'm running competitively again, very competitively at the masters division. I am 41, but
Well
you're
done.
right though, like I'm like flirting with it being like it was with the pressure, right? Because now I'm going to these races and I'm expected to win and I'm losing the joy a little bit with it. And I don't want to do that again. I don't want to fall to the pressure again. So I've been kind of like analyzing that relationship a little bit.
It's hard. It's
Hmm.
hard to find that balance, and as an addict too, right? Because like, at least for
Yeah.
me, it's like all or nothing, right? There is no middle
Yes.
ground. There are very few, it's like, and so finding, I think that's so self-aware and so beautiful. It's like making sure that you find the joy in it and it doesn't become like a have to, or it's the other day, can I share this? Because this might
Yeah.
resonate with you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So someone said, because I'm like, okay, this, da, 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 da. And he's like, well, how do you feel about the word discipline? And I was like, I don't like it, actually. I hate that word. But I never thought about it. And he's like, okay, what comes up when you think about this? I'm like, my body gets tense. It reminds me of being up at 3:45 in the morning because I swam twice a day, even in sixth grade. Like I swam all the time. And that's discipline to me. And then, the structure of the sleeping and eating well and doing the homework in the car and then in college, all of this stuff, it feels really overwhelming to me. He's like, well, what if you switch the word to rituals instead of discipline? These are the rituals that you do to help you feel good and help your mind feel well, and spiritually fit and all these things. It's not the discipline. I like that. I can get behind
Hmm.
rituals. These are the chosen
Hmm.
rituals that I do because it helps me feel good. It brings me joy. And so I'm wondering what does that feel like for you when I say that?
Yeah, that I connect with that a lot. I kind of triggery a little bit about the discipline too, because same as you. I mean, in college we had practice at 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. And like no social
Yes.
life, and it was too much. But I thrive in a structured routine. When I don't have a structured routine, I get really too squirrely. So there's good and bad to that. But I like that word ritual. And also like habits. I like that word better too.
Mhm. It's
Yeah.
funny, it's a fine line because I do well with some structure, but then if it's too structured, I find myself
Yeah.
being like, "Well, I'm an adult, I don't have to do that. I can choose," right? So I have a little bit of that, like I think it's my Scorpio rising, like, I have a little bit of that, like, "What are you gonna," like, that
Hmm.
I don't know. What is that? That
That
little,
sass.
yes, yes.
So 18 years sober. That's incredible. You and Nisha are tied, I think. I think she's pretty close to that. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you that first year is where a lot of people will fall off the wagon. It was interesting when you told your story that came a little bit later, year 15. And thank you so much for sharing that part of your story because I think a lot of people think it's just smooth sailing and it's not. It's a continuous
No.
process. But that first year, I love when when podcast guests give practical advice to listeners. What would you say like that first year kept you from falling off the wagon?
Oh my gosh. So, I had a buddy, I had a friend, right? And we did everything together. And she was also she came, her anniversary, mine was in June, and I met her in August. And we would go to meetings together. We would eat together. We drink coffee together. She came to Thanksgiving with my family. I went on vacation with her family. Like we did everything together. And I think that was one of the most helpful and powerful things I did that first year, other than community, the group, the meetings, like those things. But that I think was one of the best things because when one of us was feeling good, the other one might have been struggling. And it was so I always had someone, when I was struggling, she was there to help me. And it just felt really nice to have that almost like partner in crime, or partner in sobriety, right? To do everything. Because for me, those firsts were really hard. The first, like, for example, at Christmas that year, we went and volunteered in a homeless shelter. It's for people in recovery here in DC. Went and volunteered. And then New Year's Eve, there was three of us that rolled sushi for the first time, like in my little tiny studio apartment in Washington. We're like, what's something we've never done? And we are all I had 6 months. I think she had 4. And then I think our other friend had like 1 month. And we're all like, what do you do on New Year's Eve? Like everyone else. So we got together and watched movies and rolled because we were vegan, sushi. And so rolled like carrot sticks and like and it was terrible. I mean, it didn't turn out well, but it was fun. Right. And then we went and walked around DuPont Circle and saw a lot of people hungover, and we're like, wow, we're so grateful that's not that. That's not us anymore. But getting through those firsts felt really hard. How am I gonna get through my first, birthday without drinking? How am I gonna get through New Year's Eve or Christmas or Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day, like any of the days, right? Because any thing was an excuse to drink. And so having like that person was really, really key in me staying sober that first year.
I love that. An accountability partner, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you work a program? I know you had done one in your IOP, but did you continue to work that program into the years of sobriety? Yeah.
Did.
Yeah.
I think, the thing I love about 2026 is that addiction hits people in so many different ways. It looks different for everyone. The only similarity is the way we feel, I think, is what, what I found out. Uh, and I love that there are so many ways, right? And for me, like I identify as someone with substance use disorder. I think it's lovely when I think it's great when they're like, I chose not to drink for health reason. I'm like, that's incredible. Like I feel better. I'm like, that's amazing. And that wasn't my story. If I would have just been able to turn it off really easily and say like, okay, I'm not going to drink today. I've been making some bad choices. I think I'm good. I needed more. I needed people that I could help. I needed a sponsorship. I needed the little bit of structure, right? Like, and I think it's one of the most beautiful, for me, it was exactly what I needed. And I still argue it's one of the best, and again, for me, but I've seen a lot of other people feel, um, that 12 steps is a really powerful program. And I think my partner and I still talk about that. We're like, okay, we're still going to do this work here and look at my part in this, because in every situation, relationship, argument, like I have a part in everything, whether that means it might not be my quote fault, but I can choose to have, I can put better boundaries, and that's where the self-respect comes in, or that's where the self-worth comes in. It's like, where can I look at that? And so it's still a part of my life.
Yeah. I love that. That memory of you going to get your 10-year chip with your 10-day-old baby. What a beautiful memory. I love
Yeah.
that.
Thank you. He's older. He's 8. So maybe my 20-year tip, he'll be 10.
Yeah.
Maybe
That
I'll do
leads me
that.
to a really good next question. Does your son know about your sobriety? Do you share that type of information with him?
Yes, I do. And in a way, I think that he can understand. Like, I do not share about blacking out. I do not share about falling down escalators. I do not share the details. But what I do tell him is that it's a brain disease. And once I start, and I use the analogy of like, it would be like starting, eating ice cream, and I can't stop eating ice cream until I get really sick. And the next day I do it again. And the next day I do it again. He goes, why would you do that? And I'm like, because it's a disease, and that's what my body tells me that I need to do. And he's like, am I an alcoholic? I'm like, I have no idea. And I said, but if you are, I have all the tools and the resources, and I will help you and do anything I can. And so he kind of understands. And I said, you will never see me, God willing, drink alcohol or be drunk, or, we don't have it in the house. Like I said, my partner's in recovery as well. So it's just not what we do. And so I'm hoping, we have friends over that also don't drink. And so that's hopefully modeling that
Yeah.
for him, is that like adults don't need to have alcohol to have fun, and we laugh and we play games.
I love that. Yeah. I think you're leading such a good example. I know, like, when I got sober and we would go to parties, the kids would always gravitate to me. Even if they don't understand that you're drinking alcohol, they can sense it. They can sense a difference when an adult is drinking. And so
Right.
to be that safe space, I mean, all kids really crave is safety and love, right? And that's very hard to do when you're in active addiction. So you doing that is, showing him such good, as a role model. I also think being open with him, and I think that's very individualistic, whether you want to be or not with your kids. I don't, I can say either one is fine. But I think when you do, you shred the shame of it a little bit and you open up that communication, which is so good for kids.
Yeah, and I love that. And that's one of the things you say about creating like safety. So in our home, like there's no judgment and there is safety. And what I mean by that is like he can say anything, and for my mom sometimes and my partner, they're like, he's kind of being mean. I'm like, he's not saying it in a mean way. He's telling me how he feels. And I'm open to hearing how he feels, whether that's like, because I shared this, like he has 2 homes, and one day he's like, I would rather be with Dad today. And I was like, and it was on Mother's Day. And so I was like, that stings, And then I was like, but why? And my mom's like, that's so hurtful. I'm like, but he's 8. he's just telling me how he feels. And if I start shaming him now for telling me like how he feels, then he's never going to want to tell me how he feels later, you know? And so we sat
Mhm.
together on the stairs and he's like, why are you crying? And I said, because I'm sad. I said, not because you did something wrong, but because I love being with you. And I always want to be with you. And sometimes, the truth is hard to hear, but I'm okay with that. And it's okay. Tears aren't bad. And that's another thing of like choosing your heart. My partner's like, that's really hard to be a conscious, aware parent and give him space, right? But it's like, if I don't give him that space now at 8, it's not like he's just going to automatically come to me at 21 and be like, hey, I think I have a problem with drinking, or I've witnessed this with my friends and I don't know what to do, right? And so I think it starts
Mhm.
now with that safety. And it is really hard some days. And in the days that I question that, right? Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I being a good parent? Am I doing, making this safe container for my child? It's like, I'm not drinking and that's okay. Like, that makes me a good
Mhm.
parent, because if I was
Mhm.
drinking, there's all bets are off, like I wouldn't be the same parent I am today.
I think if you worry about being a good parent, it means you're a good parent.
That's right.
Yeah. I have one more question before our lightning round. Over the last 18 years, what has been your biggest blessing in recovery?
Oh my gosh, so many. But I would think the biggest blessing is just coming home to myself. I mean, I was trying to think of all these. I mean, there's so many things, but that's kind of the genesis of it, right? Like, just like everything else, if I drink, everything can go away. But being able to come back to me and trusting my intuition and my guidance and my inner voice, like my inner voice isn't wrong. And then from that, it's opened the door to having a beautiful partnership with a really loving man and having a great relationship with my child, and having my mom live with us here, which I never would have been able to do if I hadn't gotten all of these things. And so there are gifts that stem from that. But the biggest blessing, I think, is, that coming home to myself, self-confidence, like that
Mhm.
inner voice. Yeah. What about you?
I completely agree. Yeah. That connection back to yourself. Yeah. Finding yourself again, your authentic self. Right. Yeah. I love that so much. Well, we have made it to the lightning round. Season 1 had completely different questions. Season 2 has brand new questions. So you get the brand new questions. All right. The first one is number 1. Do you have any hidden talents?
I play the sound bowls. I don't know if that's a hidden talent or a hobby.
That's a hidden talent. I like that. Like sound
Okay.
bath? Yeah. I went to one and it was awesome. I fell asleep, but I felt very calm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That means it's well done, right? If you're able to, like, safe, right? I love that.
Yeah. I loved it. Number 2, what is one song that puts you in a good mood?
Mr. Brightside by The Killers.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's like an anthem. I like that one.
Uh,
Number 3, what is the last concert you went to?
my son's Christmas pageant. Does that
Okay.
count?
10 out of 10. Yeah. Does he sing?
He does. He's
Aw.
he's actually, so last night he was on my phone and he was doing something and he was videoing himself singing and he's showing the Christmas tree. And I was kind of sitting there and we're listening to it. And then he, hands me the phone back and I get a text from my friend. She goes, I think Alexander was just live on your Instagram. And he was doing it live. So he did a live sing. It was really cute.
Talent. And
He's
he's
so
not
cute.
afraid of the spotlight. I love
He
that.
loves it. It's very,
One of
very
my kids
creative.
is like that. My baby, the girl twin, she loves the spotlight, but the other 2 do not love
Yes.
it. Number 4, what would be your last meal?
I feel like I'm a child, like pizza and ice cream.
Okay, it's your life, girl.
Not very
You
elaborate.
choose. Cheese pizza or are you putting stuff on it?
Pizza. Oh, I don't know. Okay, so I think I guess it's mine, right? If it was my pizza, it's my
Yes.
last jalapenos, green peppers, onions, and then just vanilla ice cream with Nutella mixed in it and whipped cream.
Okay, I like it. Spicy and sweet.
Spicy and sweet. That's right.
That's so funny. All right. Number 5. Last season, the heavy question was, what does freedom mean to you? But season 2, the question, which is a little heavier than the other ones, is what kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind?
So when I hear that question, I just think of my son, right? And so, but I guess it can be, he's enough, right? That he's enough and his voice matters. And so find the people that can hear your voice and hug them tightly and love them deeply. And surround yourself with those people every day.
Beautiful answer. You answered it so well. And I could feel
Thank
it. I can feel how much that meant to you and that your love for your child really comes through.
Yeah.
Sounds like a special kid. Yeah.
P.S.
Being a
Thank you.
parent is the most rewarding, hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah.
100%. And then some days you kill it and you're like, gosh, this is what was I worried, yesterday. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Everything is cyclical or spiral. It comes back. It's a great day.
Yeah.
Okay, it's challenging. And it's like knowing that's half the battle.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't thank you enough for coming on. You are a beautiful soul. I feel like we're soul sisters after this interview.
Yeah.
Where can people follow you, find you? You have your own podcast, The Right Room, right? So, yeah, kind of tell people how they can track with you, follow you, all of those things.
I do. So HilaryPhelps.com is the website. It's 1L, Hilary Phelps _ on Instagram. I do have a podcast. It's on a little bit of a break. I took a break to actually just spend with my son over the summer. And so we are just kicking that back off. I mean, I feel like everyone, I have a Substack. I feel like it's everywhere. I'm like, that's a lot, but those are the main places.
All right, girl.
Okay.
It was so good talking with you. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Megan. You too.
Bye.